Well, welcome to today's Fireside Chat with Gorilla Technology. I'm your host, Dr. John Roy. I cover technology at Water Tower Research. And today I'm joined by Jay Chandan, CEO of Gorilla Technology, and Bruce Bauer, CFO. Welcome, gentlemen.
Very much, John. Thanks for having us.
Great. I should mention that Gorilla's safe harbor statements can be found on their website. So with that, we'll just jump right into the Q&A. So maybe if you could give us some color on the company's recent wins in Thailand and Taiwan, Latin America, and the UK, just to kind of get us started.
Sure. So we have been actively pursuing our globalization plan since July of 2022. Now we're present in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Egypt, as you know, Dubai, Saudi, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Panama, and now the United States, Seattle and Miami. As I think in the webinar, I'd mentioned that we were going to open up an office in Miami. Because our partners AECOM and NCDG and all the other guys have asked us to open up an office there because we're seeing a lot of interest in the region. We've had some very significant wins. So, for example, in Thailand, we've embarked on this what we call a transformative 5-year deal, a partnership with the Royal Thai Tourist Police. Now, the idea is to position Thailand as a global leader in AI-driven tourism safety. This is very important for them because their tourism numbers have just shot to the roof. They have actually doubled post-COVID. So the initiatives involve implementing AI technologies for enhanced security across the nation's tourist destinations. So making sure that people who come in feel safer and have a more enjoyable experience. Now, one thing which I can tell you right now is that program in the last 24 hours has actually expanded even more. So now the police have come back to us and said they want us to not just focus on doing this for the certain regions we started out with as you know as POCs, and then as you expand, right? You can't just build the whole country in one go. They've asked us to actually start focusing on the bigger cities like Phuket, Krabi, and even parts of Bangkok initially. Then they would want us to build the entire SOC, which I'm happy to kind of maybe I'll invite you for the opening. The Prime Minister is going to come and open this. And then they want us to build a data center specifically for the Thai police itself. So this relationship is slowly expanding, and we're excited about it. Now, in terms of Taiwan, we actually secured some very pivotal projects towards the end of the year. We're deploying very powerful 5G LI technologies for criminal investigation. We closed another a project with a shipping company where we're deploying AI-enhanced cloud-based IMS network services. And more importantly, we're also making sure that these particular ports are conforming to public safety and regulatory compliance. This is something they've asked us to do as part of that, right? This is a very unique feature about Gorilla, where we're able to actually get them to compliance as well. The next is the UK. We recently won a deal in the UK, and that's actually an extension of what we were doing with the Port of Tyne and British Telecom. As you know, we have a very strong partnership with British Telecom across the UK and Europe. The idea behind this particular project was it stemmed out of, there were high-risk areas in the port. They wanted to detect, minimum, what you call potential safety risks. They wanted to do that real time. Typically, people would actually capture the data and then do it post-event. We're now doing this real time. We're also reinforcing the workforce commitment of optimizing the operations for the workforce itself to make sure that they're, protected as they feel protected as well. And these projects are not just about, innovation. This is also about safety development across the UK and making this a model port. Port of Tyne went from being number 5 or 6 to the leading kind of, innovative port now across the UK. Thanks to Gorilla, thanks to British Telecom, and so on and so forth. Now, across Latin America, this is quite interesting. We're currently engaged in Panama, Peru, Chile, and Colombia. We recently won the project with Santa Marta, which is the government of Colombia, to build AI-powered smart city. Why Santa Marta? Because Santa Marta, about 3.5 miles away from the coast, they've just discovered a lot of oil. The city needs to rejuvenate itself. So they've got a port, they've got airport, they want to build upon that. Everybody has to start somewhere, right? And so what are we providing? We're providing basic features such as security, mobility, environmental monitoring, and AI to actually help urbanize their airports, ports, and the city itself. Now, what we are building is a scalable model. So we're going to start with some of the key deployments in the center of the city, and we're going to expand. Now, what is also something which is surprising, which you will like, is that now the other cities, when we met the presidential office last time, have reached out to us and they said, "Hey, hold on for a second. We would like you to look at potentially building a data center, which will host a whole raft of national data." Right? So we're excited about that. So we are working with Cartagena, Medellin, Bogota, and even Casanare as well. So these are the few projects we're super excited and following very closely on. And that's why over the next few weeks, you'll see me running around the world again.
That's great, Jay. So, Bruce, you guys did close the ATM. I think you got a share count update. And obviously, with all these deals, your cash position is changing. Maybe if you could give us some color and some insight onto what's going on there.
Sure. So at the moment, we have 20 million of unrestricted cash. We have a further 16 million of restricted cash. And we're feeling really good about our cash position overall. We are collecting in the next week or two invoices totaling $30 million. And then by the end of the quarter, it should be another 15 to 20 million coming in. So we should finish the first quarter in an extremely strong cash position. And then long term, or later this year, we're also looking at selling our building, which we own in Taiwan, which the list price is 27 million. So that does two things. One is it enables us to clear off the debt that's attached to it. So it's list price 27, debt is 21 attached to it. So we will come out with a head of cash for that. And then also there's 8 million of restricted cash that is collateral for the loan. So that would move it from restricted to unrestricted cash. So hopefully we'll finish the year with plenty of cash and no debt. The reason we're building a fortress-like balance sheet such as this is because we want to be able to tackle almost any project that comes our way with our own resources. Almost every project that Jay has mentioned, with the exception of a smart education project in Southeast Asia, I'm very confident that we could tackle from our existing balance sheet without having to go to the markets. I think, the first stop would be some kind of project level finance. Next up would be some kind of debt structure where it makes sense for Gorilla. There's a small chance that we may have to go to the equity markets at some point, but as always, the goal for Gorilla remains to minimize dilution and then make sure that it's accretive, right? If we go and say we're going to 5 times EBITDA and we need equity for this, I'm sure no one would object, and that's how we think about it. In terms of the share count, we're at 19.5 million outstanding shares. The goal, number one goal for the share count has been to keep it flat since the first half of last year. We've actually reduced the fully diluted share count, and then we've cleaned up the cap table significantly. So there's no more convertible preferred shares. There are private warrants, the one struck at 590, which we've reduced from about 5 million warrants to 1.3 million warrants. So we're very happy with that. There's also about 950,000 SPAC warrants outstanding. The exercise price on those is $115 a share. So we would love to have the problem of that being exercised, but realistically, I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. And then the last thing I'll mention, which ties in what Jay was talking about, is some of the partners that we've been talking to about projects are actually development banks and UK export finance and other such players. So, when we talk about raising outside financing, either at project level or for Gorilla, it's not a theoretical discussion. We already have the players identified. They're already quite interested and in some cases invested into these projects.
Great. Well, that's good to hear, Bruce. That's good to see you guys making a lot of progress on that. So the recent big one, let's go ahead and talk about, is One Amazon. Certainly a major project. I think Rodrigo Veloso is heading that up. So Jay, maybe if you could give us as much color as you possibly can.
Oh, man. Okay. So you mentioned Rodrigo Veloso. most people, I don't know, obviously they have to Google his background. Rodrigo Veloso actually created a company called One Coconut. I'm sure everybody who's been to Asia has had that coconut water, right? I come to the UK, I have that as well. And he built that company, sold it to Pepsi for a little over $1 billion. He's been ever involved in a lot of other projects. He's created a number of funds and run it successfully. To his credit, he also took DJT public through his SPAC. So, obviously, we are closely working with him and through him with the current administration, which is very exciting for us because we're seeing a lot of investment into infrastructure. Now, One Amazon, it's very interesting, and I keep doing this because I'm actually cold, but not because I'm too excited as well. The data for me, when you look at Gorilla, data for us is our biggest ally. And we believe that data will be the ally for us in protecting nature. So the way we went about One Amazon is that we are going to build the digital backbone for the Internet of Forests, which is the concept behind it. Now, we are deploying millions of biodegradable environmental sensors. This will be the largest deployment in the history to create a real-time AI-powered environmental intelligence platform. And what does that do? What does the platform do? The platform will basically measure deforestation rates, biodiversity changes, carbon sequestration, illegal activities such as mining, logging, and so on and so forth. Now, the other part to that is with this unprecedented level of data, the governments, the scientists, the policymakers can move from reactive interventions to proactive environmental stewardship. This is something which we are very, excited about because if you look at everything around us today is very reactive, right? Because the data doesn't exist. Now, the reason why, if you look at our presentation initially, it says Colombia. We're actually working very closely with Colombia. Colombia is also allocating their land. But we started with Brazil purely because Brazil has more than 67% of the rainforest, of the Amazon rainforest. So it is at the epicenter for us of environmental innovation, but more importantly, technology and capital all kind of meet together. As I'd mentioned, there's going to be a big announcement coming in the next few weeks. We'll tell you about it in due course. But the idea for us is we are going to focus on key projects there: smart environmental monitoring, real-time insights into ecosystem health, community-led conservation, protection of the indigenous people, partnering with them as well, helping them integrate and create a more environmental intelligence solution for urban planning in the future, and so on and so forth. So the idea behind this is once you create the data, we believe that the data will be consumed, and that will also create a whole wealth of opportunities for a number of these new economies to be created over a period of time. Now, the last part to that is, Rodrigo is raising tens of billions of dollars. Again, I can't give you the number right now because he's in active conversation with a number of huge financial institutions and strategic partners as well. But think of it this way: this will be the largest environmental impact fund in history. Okay. The way we're looking at it is that we would need at least $1 billion for every million hectares of land. There's 750 million hectares of land. So you can imagine, the math is very simple, right? So what we are going to do, this fund will basically, we will use the data generated by the IOF, the Internet of Forests, to back what is called the digital asset security, creating nature-based financial instrument. And this will be done with the help of our friends at Goldman Sachs. Now, by digitally quantifying the Amazon's ecological contributions, what we are doing is we're now able to turn nature into a recognized economic asset. Okay, and this is very key. People haven't, and nobody's ever tried this before. We've actually tried it, and we believe it's going to be super successful. One most important thing, we are not going to compromise the integrity or the ownership of the land or the data. Okay, so we are going to use blockchain technology to ensure this it is transparent, secure, and more importantly, it'll have immutable environmental reporting so that we can build trust and accountability when it comes to conservation decisions and so on. So think about it this way: we're going to create global partnerships. We're going to help in supporting policy making and decisions, and conservation and helping the local communities so that they can uplift themselves. We don't want to be seeing them for the next 100 years there. So this is a third year of the project. And Brazil is only the starting point. We are also in conversations with the presidents of all the 9 countries, and all of them have given us unanimous support. So this is the exciting part.
Wow, that's an amazing project, or multiple amazing projects. And speaking of multiple, there's some major partners here. I mean, I see MIT Media Lab, I see Goldman Sachs, AECOM, Abu Dhabi Investment Group, CAF. I mean, that's quite a list of partners. What are they doing? And then what is Gorilla doing?
Gorilla is the tiny 800-pound gorilla in there, right? And these guys are dinosaurs and massive, and I call them the T-Rex of the industry. But listen, it's a powerhouse of a consortium, and these are only the few partners. There are other partners which are coming, and there are even bigger names. I can absolutely guarantee we were surprised by the reception we received over the weekend. But I mean, let me talk about MIT, for example. MIT is leading the research and development side using their expertise in artificial intelligence, data science, digital innovation to create advanced models for real-time environmental monitoring. Now, the issue is that you've got all this data, so they're going to use that to focus on making the Internet of Forest not just a sensor network, but an intelligent self-learning platform that enhances itself through AI insights. Okay, so Gorilla, by the way, will be working with MIT to build a lab in MIT together with them. So which is a very cool thing, which I haven't disclosed. I think I don't know why we didn't disclose that. But second, Goldman Sachs. Why Goldman Sachs? Goldman Sachs actually is going to do the structuring and the financial backbone of this particular initiative. They are very, very important for us because they are the ones who are helping develop the nature-backed securities in a tradable platform. So they've created a whole tradable platform right now in the US, which this will allow the institutional and impact investors to participate in the Amazon conservation. And this is important because the goal is to make it scalable, a scalable financial model so that it can be replicated across other biomes as well. So I think Goldman Sachs will play a key role going forward. Now, the others, for example, AECOM. AECOM is the one who actually started off with Rodrigo as the key infrastructure master planner. They are coming in, doing the entire master planning, designing physical and digital systems, and so on and so forth. And they'll work with us to make sure that our environmental technologies or the biodegradable technologies can be supported in those forests, right? They have to make, obviously at the end of the day, they have to write a report, right? And they have to make sure that, it's everything is spick and span. They're also helping integrate sustainable climate resilient infrastructure so that we can make sure that the technology also seamlessly functions across it. Across there's going to be a lot of challenges, right? We're using different technologies, lower band, satellite, Starlink, and so on and so forth. It's going to be challenging environment. So we're making sure that everybody comes together so that we can plan this perfectly. Now, Brazil Invest Abu Dhabi Group, they are providing critical funding, institutional backing, but more importantly, they're also helping channel the interest levels from the people like in the Middle East and other big impact investors to come in. So they're going to be the catapult, so that the others will look at it and say, "What am I missing here?" And that's very important because if you don't have that one person to back you, then it's not going to be successful, and we're not going to be able to raise the money we want to raise. But their involvement also makes sure that there is long-term capital flows as well. They have personally committed to investing a ton of money. And not today, like I said, I'll take about a few more weeks. I'll inform that to the market as and when. CAF, for example, is the Development Bank of Latin America, right? Not many people know about it. They have a little over 108 or $110 billion to invest right now, just across Latin America. So what are they doing? They're going to help shape the policy, build the economic development plan, the initiatives, so that they can go to all these countries and make sure that other investors, local investors within those countries are also participating. So they are currently working across the governments. I told you we're talking to 9 governments and 9 presidents. They're the ones who are helping us work with them. They're helping us create national conservation policies. They're making sure that the local stakeholders participate in it. Like, who's going to go to the indigenous communities and tell them, like, listen, we're going to help you build this, educate them through that process. And we are actually building that through CAF as well. But more importantly, they will also make sure that we're deploying sustainable capital as well, along with Brazil Invest, Abu Dhabi Investment Group. They will also be investing a significant portion of the capital as well. And they're bringing in, by the way, like I said, the reception over the weekend when we signed this deal was immense. And we now have a whole bunch of players who are very keen. In fact, Rodrigo and the team are currently in DC discussing with some of the key players in the US markets today. And what is Gorilla's role? That's a good question. We're at the heart of the Amazon initiative. Let me put it this way. We may be tiny in comparison to all these guys, but we are the technology provider, but we're also the core architect of the data intelligence ecosystem. What is our role? Our role is to make sure that the Internet of Forests works. We build the environmental monitoring platform. We leverage our AI, edge computing, and real-time analytics data engines. But more importantly, we make sure that all our technologies are biodegradable and completely environmental friendly. Beyond that, we're also going to help in complete end-to-end cybersecurity, transparency of the system, monitoring of the data, because obviously, we're talking about petabytes of data being generated. So we've got to make sure that it's completely secure. And then, of course, our AI-driven cybersecurity, our blockchain technologies will safeguard so that the data remains verifiable and trusted in the global markets. So Gorilla's role is going to be bridging technology, finance, and environmental sustainability, making nature an investable asset. I hope that answers your question. You're on mute, John.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's a great answer. As I was saying, no one was hearing. But yeah, that really does give us a view of how big this is really going to be. And it kind of follows on to my next question, which is maybe something for Bruce, which is, so these contracts, are they like short-term stuff? I mean, how recurring are they, and how long? And what are we talking about here eventually when we get there?
Yeah, so I think ever since Jay took over as chief exec, the move has really been to move away from project-based revenue, where it's sort of one time, design a solution, transfer it to the customer, walk away, to building out recurring revenue, longer term, more predictable revenue. The first phase of that was we started taking on contracts that were multi-stage, multi-phase over several years. So 3-5-year projects. Currently, the minimum in terms of new projects that we accept are ones with a 3-year horizon. But actually, the One Amazon is a great case study in the kind of projects that we are angling towards and signing now are ones where Gorilla is really the technology partner in a long-term partnership or consortium. So for instance, One Amazon is a 30-year partnership. So Gorilla remains the technology partner for those 30 years. So of course we deploy the sensors, it's our software that runs it, but then over time, there's recurring software licenses every year. If we do an upgrade cycle of the hardware, Gorilla is driving that. So it's quite attractive. But this isn't just something we've executed in the One Amazon area. It's in many other projects. So for instance, we're looking at several airport projects now where it would be a concession, 15 years. We're talking about a project in Asia with smart electricity, where we're basically implementing smart meters. But then we have a 20-year arrangement there, and it's basically structured as a revenue share, so that we are very much joined at the hip with the operator. And then lastly, but probably most recently in the news, was we signed some contracts in South America for smart cities, and those are also 20-year consortiums. We are a member of the consortium along with AECOM, along with NCTG. And how it works is, of course, we get the 20-year technology partnership revenues, but also there's an advertising revenue stream from those. and the advertising revenue comes into the consortium, pays out costs, and then we're getting a second bite at the apple from some of the profit sharing. So over time that turns into a high margin recurring stream of income as well. So that's how we're thinking about the business and really trying to shift it to so that when now is 2025, we can even start talking about this is 2030 forecast just based on the projects that we have now, and building that up.
Great, Bruce. That's good to hear. So Jay, maybe as a final question, you could give us an idea of what's going on in your U.S. marketing efforts. I know you said you opened up a Seattle office, obviously one down near me in Miami. What else also is going on in the pipeline? I know the pipeline is a moving target. I'm not asking for numbers, but give us any kind of color you can.
Sure. Listen, we have received immense amount of very friendly reception, both from governments and private sector. I was in Boston last week. We are now engaged in conversations with through Broadside with some governments for providing smart cities. There's a big initiative from President Trump that they're looking to invest about $1 trillion into infrastructure enhancement of the U.S. economy. And what we are looking at is with Broadside, we'll be looking at 5G connectivity, putting up data centers, making cities smarter, electricity regeneration programs, and so on and so forth. AECOM is a completely different beast. Now, I know I can say this because AECOM is already, we're teaming up with them on some very large airports, not just in Latin America, but also in the United States. We've also been invited on some projects in Miami, and that's, I'm sure everybody realized when I said I'm opening up an office in Miami and hiring some top-notch people, they will realize that these are, serious investments we're making into the region. We are also, we're being very, we're not being oblivious to the fact that, we are a small company. I think that, is one of the things I want to make sure that a lot of people, maybe I'll address that comment now. A lot of people have said, oh, they're a 150 people company. How are they able to support all these big projects? Okay. John, one of the things, and this is going to come even when we go into the US, people are going to ask me that question. Okay. Let me give you an example. First of all, we're not idiots. Secondly, we are very efficient in optimizing our HR. Okay, we have more than now a little over 200 and plus people, 250 people. And if you look at, for example, the Egypt project, when we signed that, we talked about this with you. You did a fireside chat. We had a fireside chat. What was exciting at that time was we thought we were going to hire about 150, 200 people for this project. Anybody with common sense, any tech company would do that. Can you take a wild guess how many people we'd have there on that project? 10. Not 200, 10. Why? Because one, we are using external contractors to a certain extent, slightly more expensive than your CTC for an average employee, but we're not keeping them on bench. That's a very smart way to do this, because I don't know if I need a CCNA in Egypt for another project. I might be needing them for Saudi or something like that. And if I need them, I can move those contractors there. They're still not sitting on my bench. That's one. Second, I am not of the opinion that I hire 100, 200, 500,000 people and fire them the next day. That's not me. We don't want to fire people. Okay, we feel sorry for the livelihoods of these people. So we're not going to do that. That's number two. Number three, we will utilize our vendors' resources. So when I talked about having 10 people, so we work with Cisco, we work with Palo Alto, we work with CITIC, we work with Gigamon, we work with MCS. Guess what we've told them? Guys, I need you to come in and give me your resources because your people are the best in implementing your piece of the technology. But I want that to be as part of my cost. I don't want you to give me an additional professional services. We could beat them down. And I'm going to paraphrase what Bruce usually says. We were risk takers and bargain hunters back in the day. Now we're sitting down and telling people, nope, I need this at my price. You don't want to give it to me, I will go to your competitor. And we are in a position to negotiate very strongly. So it is not about us being small. I don't mind being 300 people and generating 200 million revenue in AI. Because at the end of the day, I'll still use 400 or 500 people from outside. make it very efficient for our organization. Because remember, when I have 1,000 people, I have a lot of OpEx which I need to worry about, and so on and so forth. So, sorry, this is a long-winded response to how we're going to address the United States market. Even in the US, we've already identified companies who are going to work as contractors for us, right? We're not sitting there twiddling our thumbs and meeting up with all the heads of state and saying we're going to build these great cities. We've already started partnering and bringing resources. The heads of the projects, like the project heads, project managers, architects, they'll all be part of Gorilla, but they'll be the cream on the top. That said, we're also actively pursuing 2 acquisitions. Okay, one is on the product side and one is on the services side. The services side is because we have to be present in Colombia and Brazil. So we have to hire. I mean, we need local knowledge, local support, cultural integrity is very important for us. So we are looking at potential acquisition there. In fact, we're in conversations, and we're in conversations for a product company which is going to complement our cybersecurity portfolio as well. And we'll be able to announce that very soon over the next course of maybe 3 to 6 months at the most. So that's where we are in the US. Keep an eye out. The projects are huge, and the US market is going to be absolutely explosive for us with the right partners. So we're excited.
No, that's all. That's all great. It's good to see that you're taking your people seriously, because that is heartfelt. So everyone, I think we're going to have to leave it there. We're running out of time. So Bruce, Jay, thanks so much for joining us today. To learn more about Gorilla Technology, you can go to their website, of course, or you can go to look at our research at Water Tower's website at www.watertowerresearch.com. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. The views expressed in this fireside chat may not necessarily reflect the views of Water Tower Research LLC and are provided for informational purposes only. The fireside chat may not be distributed or reproduced without the written consent of Water Tower Research and should not be considered research nor recommendation. WTR is an investor relations firm, not a licensed broker, broker-dealer, market maker, investment banker, underwriter, or investment advisor. Additional disclaimers can be found at www.watertowerresearch.com.
Mucho gusto, John Roy.
Thank you so much.
That's me.